Now I'm ready. Okay. Good afternoon. It's Greg Novak, Chair of CAMPO, and this is our call to order for the July 9th, 2025 meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Novak,
Here.
Vice Chair Maloney, Member Casanelli,
Here.
Member Dodson,
Here.
Member Bagwell, Member Erb,
Here.
Member Schutte,
Here.
ex officio Member Capular.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All righty. Thank you. That was item 2. Item 3 is our first opportunity for public comment, and we have a few action items, so that I think there's like 5 opportunities for public comment today. Do we have any public comment at this time? All righty. Seeing none, we'll move ahead for possible action, approval of our minutes of the June 11th, 2025 meeting.
I will move approval of the minutes.
Do we have any discussion, corrections? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All righty. We're on to item 5A for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding amendment number 2 to the CAMPO Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal year 2025 and 2026, which deletes section 3.1 of the UPWP and makes related edits. And 2, authorization for the transportation manager to make any changes to the amendment requested by the Nevada Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, or Federal Transit Administration that do not substantively modify the work element, activities, or budget of the UPWP. And I hear a disclosure coming.
Disclosure. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. My nephew is Chris Martinovich, who is employed by Carson City and will be presenting this item. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his service with the city, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other resident of Carson City. NRS 281A.420 only requires abstention in clear cases, and the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position would not be impacted by this familial relationship I have with Chris. Therefore, I make this disclosure for full transparency, but I do not have a disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting on this matter.
All righty, Chris, you have our presentation here for us. I know it's on the backup material and there's several edits, but it didn't look like anything significant really at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. I have really nothing additional to add onto this other than what's presented and described in the staff report background. I'm happy to take questions if anyone does have any.
Okay, I just have a couple of comments on it. It looks like they did away with the planning emphasis areas, which sounds like it made a lot of sense to me. And there have been a lot of changes coming through the whole federal process since you prepared this. There's one big, beautiful bill that passed and a couple other things, but I don't think it affects anything in our UPWP at this point.
Not that I'm aware of at this point, no.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions or comments?
We'll still have another amendment, though, when all the monies are figured out. So we're not done. This is just to get this one through with the required edits so that we can spend our rollover, right? Do we have another one coming?
There may be an amendment to this UPWP, but at this point, I'm not foreseeing an amendment to the UPWP. Where we do have an amendment is to the monetary agreement that funds the UPWP. That will be coming later this year. The only reason that we would have an amendment to the UPWP was because we changed the work element or because we don't get the money we anticipate getting to fund this UPWP. That would be 2 reasons for an amendment. But at this point, I don't foresee another amendment at this time.
Right. And then, Chris, the scope of work essentially stays the same. Nothing's really changing at this point.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Public comment.
Oh, public comment. Any public comment for this item at this point? All right, hearing none, I will take a motion to move ahead.
Okay. I move to approve the amendment and authorize the transportation manager to make changes to the amendment as presented.
That motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion passes unanimously. All righty. Okay, next item, agenda item 5B, and I think Marcus is going to come up on this one. For possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the CAMPO Disadvantaged Business Enterprise DBE program, including submission of a proposed 3-year DBE participation goal of 0.82% of all Federal Transit Administration assisted contracts awarded by CAMPO during federal fiscal years 2026 to 2028 to the FTA. And 2, authorization for the transit manager to administratively amend the DBE program plan with non-substantive changes resulting from required changes to federal regulations that do not change the DBE participation goal or substantively affect CAMPO's processes to administer the DBE program. Okay. Marcus, you want to walk us through that? And again, the backup material is pretty clear, but let's hear what you have to say now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcus Myers, Transit Coordinator for Carson City Public Works. The Federal Transit Administration requires all recipients of grant funding to keep a 3-year program goal with regard to participation by disadvantaged business enterprises or DBEs on their projects. CAMPO is due to update their program goal for fiscal year 2026 to 2028, for which staff has identified a goal of 0.82%. The methodology for determining this goal can be found on packet page 66, 67, and 68. And to detail this methodology, I'll provide an example using tables 1 and 2 on packet pages 66 and 67. If we focus our attention on the second listed project, bus and bus facility upgrades, bus stop signing, and solar lighting, you'll see this project has a North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS code, of 335132 and 238210. Using the appropriate NAICS code, staff identified the number of available DBEs for each anticipated project in the market area, which includes Carson City, Douglas County, Lyon County, Story County, and Washoe County. Staff then multiplied the percentage of total funds allocated to each project by the percentage of available DBEs for each project to find the weighted percent for each project. The sum of the weighted percentages across all projects gives us the overall 3-year DBE goal. Staff held a 30-day public comment period starting on June 4th and ending on July 4th, during which no comments were received. Additionally, staff held a public DBE stakeholders presentation to detail our goal and methodology used to arrive at that goal, to which no comments were received. Should the CAMPO board approve this document and the associated goal, staff will next submit the plan, methodology, and goal to the FTA for review and approval. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. And Marcus, just looking at your handouts in the backup here, most of our FTA money goes to operating, right? And that's one reason our goal is low. We don't just have that much work coming up here. And, 0.82% of 6.6 million, you're looking for about $54,000, right, over 3 years. And you'll be monitoring that, so I don't have any problems with that at all. Any other questions or comments or clarifications? Jim?
Marcus, I guess I was confused about the percentages here, and I must not be looking at this right, but on section 2.6, you talk about the 0.63% goal for NDOT. So, and then in other areas, the NDOT goal is much higher for DBE. Is the transit part broken out separately for NDOT? Is that what you're referring to there?
Yeah, so there's you can use a race neutral or a race conscious goal, and NDOT does split their goal between the two. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, so it's a combined
Correct.
goal to be attained there.
NDOT's is correct.
All right.
Yes.
And then one other question, in the commentary on page 65, 1.2, you talk about our new goal has increased from the previous 3 years. What is there's a 1.43% for Jack, shown in one of the information I thought was in a slide. But would Jack be different from CAMPO? Is that the reason that calculation is different?
It's not. That's a typo.
Okay.
The previous goal was 1.43%.
Okay, so it hasn't increased then? Has
Correct.
not?
It's gone down.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
More comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you speak to any observations you had on why the goal is decreasing from the 1.43% to the 0.82?
There's a few different reasons. I'd say the biggest is likely the amount of funding assigned to projects over the next 3 years. So in 2023 to 2025, we had a project budget of 7.8 million. And in this next period for 2026 to 2028, we have 6.6 million budgeted. So it's a $1.2 million difference. Also, DBEs available for different projects can also play a part in that. As Chair Novak mentioned, operating is a large expense, and there's not DBEs available for that.
Thank you. The analysis that you did on this was really thorough, and I appreciated it. From my last reading of the DBE plan, it seems that the list of the NAICS codes that we've included is expanded. It seems really thorough. I think you did a really good job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this point? Marcus, have you had any issues dealing with FTA at all? Everything I see in the news is the federal government is shrinking and who's left to do things. So is this working out okay on your end?
Yeah, so far everything's going well for us.
Okay, good. All right. Do I have any public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing or hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
I move to direct staff to submit CAMPO's Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program to the FTA and to authorize the transit manager to make the administrative amendments to the DBE program as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I have any further discussion? No, at this point. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All righty. Looks like, Marcus, you're up there again for item 5C. This is for possible action, discussion, and possible action regarding the submission of a Federal Transit Administration Section 5339B Buses and Bus Facilities Program grant application to the FTA for a total of $111,141, subject to a 20% local match estimated to be $22,228, to be provided by the Carson City Regional Transportation Commission to partially fund the replacement of a jump-around Carson Transit System fixed route vehicle. Okay, Marcus, lead us through this one. It looks like we're going to buy one bus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcus Myers, Transit Coordinator. On May 15th, 2025, the FTA released a notice of funding opportunity for a competitive bus and bus facility program grant under Section 5339B. Staff is requesting approval to submit an application to the FTA requesting $88,913 in federal funding with a 20% local match of $22,228 for a total amount of $111,141. If awarded, these 5339B funds would be supplemented by $122,280 in Section 5339A funds through a grant application that was submitted to CAMPO in June of 2025. This would provide a project total of $255,000 to be used for the purchase of a new ADA-compliant transit bus. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Yeah, I'll start off. I guess you're going after some discretionary money, and if you don't get that, you'll be using regular apportionment funds for it.
That's correct.
And we've had discussions in the past about what's the power supply for a bus? Are we looking at hybrid, diesel, gas, electric, or do you know at this point?
Not at this time, no, just a regular combustion engine.
Okay. That looks like we're going back to that for lots of things right now. So we'll see. Do I have any other comments or questions from the board here? Okay.
Just that it's really hard to do these because it's really not for a bus until 2027. And you don't really know that you have the matching money because you're not in that budget cycle. So I think it's important that everyone recognizes it takes so long to receive a bus from its order date. And so it's really hard to do an obligation for a bus in a period in which the match is not in the same year. So we're going to thread the needle. But I just need to make it clear, right? It's really tough because you're applying on a federal fiscal year date for an award that doesn't already align with your state fiscal year. So you usually only have a 9-month period, but we're actually be the following year. So anyway, just yikes. Got to do it though. Maybe someday, it looks like they're getting better though, right? That the buses are coming in more at 18, 19 months instead of 36 months? No? It's backwards again? I'm not liking that answer.
It's going to keep you busy, Marcus, isn't it? Keeping track of all this stuff.
Staying busy is good.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard. It's just really hard to put the appropriations in the right
Oh,
places.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I'll just double check, any public comment on this item at all? Nope, okay. All righty, well, we'll move on to the next one then.
Want a motion?
I thought we had the motion already, okay. Another motion and a second.
I move to approve submission of the grant application as presented.
I second.
Have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion at all? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion again passes unanimously. All righty, thank you, Marcus. I'll keep you busy. All right, item 6A, Chris, Transportation Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. The only item I have to report tonight is that we did receive a letter from the federal US DOT, Department of Transportation, regarding some guidelines that they have recently published or issued. I don't know the full extent of what those are. I think it's guidelines on how they're going to be managing certain rules and regulations that have come out over the past 4 years. And so we'll see what that means. I just haven't digested the letter from Secretary Duffy as to what that means. I don't think it means any changes at this point, but I'll review and determine what it says. So that's the only update I have at this point. I'm happy to answer questions as best as I'm able.
From what I saw from Secretary Duffy, it's pretty much anything the Biden administration did, he's putting on ice. Or maybe that's the wrong terminology. But he's rescinding quite a bit. So
Just-
we'll see.
Just exactly what the last one did to the last
back
one.
and
It's
forth,
like
back
every
and forth.
4 years, we're
Yep.
just going to reverse course, right?
But it takes a while to sift through what's
Yeah.
really going to happen. So we'll see. All righty.
All right, just keep on.
Any other questions for Chris here at all? All right. Item 6B, Rebecca, what's new at NDOT?
Well, we just finished the 83rd Nevada legislative session. It concluded in June 3rd. NDOT received its base budget as requested by the governor. NDOT also received the bonding authority for projects throughout the state. And due to extreme impacts of inflation and construction costs, we're going to continue to have dialogues with our legislators during the interim to communicate the unmet needs in the state. So we're continuing to work with them and share that information. Several bills did pass that are going to affect NDOT, and I'm excited to share a couple of those with you. One is SB 315. It allows NDOT to use the progressive design build approach for the I-80 East Sparks widening project. This construction approach will help us create some efficiencies, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with design build, but it's a project delivery method that combines design and construction together, and it just gives us a little more options there. We're also pleased about the passage of AB 503, which imposes stricter penalties for copper utility wire theft. And we've had a lot of issues with that in the larger cities. Hopefully you guys haven't experienced that too much here, but we were very pleased with that passage of AB 503. We're also looking forward to continuing to work with the lawmakers, as I mentioned, specifically on public safety issues, and continue to talk with them about our transportation priorities and funding as we head into the 2027 session. You know, we don't get much rest, and we're already talking about how we're going to be working with them and sharing information. The other item I want to mention is about Spooner Summit. We wanted to recognize efforts to reduce wildlife vehicle collisions on our state roadways. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but approximately 500 animal vehicle collisions are reported every year in Nevada, which I feel is quite high. And those are only the collisions that are reported. I'm sure there's some that aren't reported. They can be quite dangerous for drivers and animals. NDOT has conducted a comprehensive review of animal vehicle conflict across the state, identifying opportunities for future wildlife crossings to improve both motorist safety, and connectivity. So of that study, more than 90 roadway segments were flagged by resource managers for further evaluation. And the team has examined crash records, climate change projections, land development plans, and data on wildlife movements, species ranges, and habitat linkages to highlight the key conflict areas. So now that we're prioritizing those 90 projects, we're looking at locations identified as the highest priorities to investigate, and funding. A funding mechanism for the wildlife crossing was removed from recent legislation. However, NDOT will continue to pursue grants to maximize the benefit to taxpayers and our current budget. We're also trying to find other NDOT projects that overlap and help prioritize these areas with construction of wildlife infrastructure to help reduce costs. Right now, we are investigating US 50, as I mentioned, Spooner Summit, as a potential future location for a multi-use highway crossing for both trail users and wildlife. NDOT, Tahoe Rim Trail Association, and Pathways for Wildlife are collaborating to look into this together. And we've also collected data from animal collar data from NDOW, and roadway mortality data from both NDOT and NDOW has been gathered as well as we continue to go through this research period. So we are looking at dozens of cameras that are going to be installed in the area to collect the wildlife tracking data and determine which species are specifically crossing Spooner Summit and where. So the research team will continue to track animals and prints for more. And this is a joint research. This joint research will help improve stakeholder engagement and provide educational opportunities as well. Last month when we were here, I mentioned that our highway maintenance staff were going to be doing some grading and improving some roadway areas. Through this Friday, one lane is closed on southbound US 395 from 8 to 3 daily between Topsy Lane and Jacks Valley Road. Our crews are making drainage improvements there and using asphalt millings to stabilize roadside median and reduce erosion. And the last update I have is just more of a heads up, that over the coming months, we are going to be enhancing pedestrian crossing ramps on Right Way, which is in front of the DMV building in Carson City. Intermittent lane and sidewalk closures are going to take place on Right Way for approximately 10 days as we upgrade the ramps. And access to the DMV and nearby state buildings will remain open and available. Pedestrian crosswalk access across Right Way will be available, but pedestrians will be detoured to a nearby crossing as the construction's being implemented. One note I do want to make is that the construction start date has not been identified yet because the project's not finalized. And once I have an opportunity to share that with you, I will. And that pretty much summarizes my report. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any. Nope. Great, thank you.
You haven't gotten anything out of the federal chain of command on new things coming down the pike?
I probably got the same letter from Secretary Duffy as Mr. Martinovich mentioned, and we are digesting it as well. There's been a couple, I was out last week, but we got 2 last week, so we're just trying to see. There's a lot of shalls, not musts and shoulds and stuff, so we're just going to be taking a better look at that as well. Thank you for asking.
All righty. Move on to item 6C, other comments and reports. Does anybody have anything that they want to add? I've got a couple of things, but I'll let you folks go first. Okay. Okay, Jim, you go first then.
This afternoon, I was on my 3rd trip to Home Depot to get sprinkler parts, and I noticed a fixed bus parked in the other direction on College Parkway. And the driver, on this fixed bus route was out in the middle of the crosswalk with his very visible vest on, looking for people, warning people that there were a couple of elderly individuals making that crosswalk across there. And I just thought that probably goes above and beyond, what's required there. And I was just really impressed by it. That's it.
Okay, I do have a couple of things. I know the 4th of July, there was a signing ceremony in DC, and big deal. And actually, you could download the One Big Beautiful Bill. And I did find a couple of things in there that might be of interest to us that eventually will trickle down when it's sorted out. 3 sections, the highway law, Title 23, were rescinded. Sections 177 about neighborhood access and equity grant program for about $1.9 billion. 178 environmental review process implementation funds, $100 million. And 179 low carbon transportation materials grants, $2 billion. And I wasn't sure if we have any active grants. I'm assuming that if the money was obligated, they can't take it back, but I don't know. We'll see. But those things have been pulled out. And then other things that I saw on the USDOT website, they have all their press releases, and they're starting to put quite a bit out, that there's a new safety initiative on arterial roads that went out in the last day or two. And NDOT's got 60 days to come up with a list of arterial roads that need work. And there's also going to be more of an emphasis on truck parking needs. So there's quite a bit that's rolling out right now. And I think we all agree it takes a while to sort through and see what it really means for us, but it's out there. So, any other questions or comments at this point? And your Tahoe summit is August 6th on the California side. We'll see how that goes.
Valhalla.
Yeah, Valhalla. Yep, we'll see how that goes. All righty, our next item, public comment, final public comment. I see we do have some, thank you.
Hi, my name is Dee Dee Formaster. I'm with the Rural Center for Independent Living. And I just wanted to keep you guys updated on what's coming through my office. So there's been some concerns, I guess, with there's not a lot of transportation over into the Arrowhead area, where there's a lot of work over in that area in the warehouse industry area. And several of my clients asked in the last 3 weeks about that area and whether or not there was a bus system through there. I told them I wasn't too sure, but that I would check on it for them. But I was thinking, seeing as the city often works, does a lot of work incentives with our manufacturers in that area. I was thinking maybe it might be worth our while to take a few minutes, gather those folks together, or even make some phone calls and ask maybe if they are having some problems getting people to that area to work, and if they have a lot of job openings, and maybe between this board and some of the people there in the manufacturing area could possibly work together to even get a bus that comes in the morning when work starts and leaves in the evening, stopping at the warehouse areas to pick people up and dropping them off into the bus system. So that was just an idea that I had that I thought might be worth looking into. Also, the area out in the Mound House area, there's also some requests for, accessibility to that area also. So just an idea. Thank you so much for your time.
Do we have any other public comment at this time? Hearing none, it's time to adjourn this meeting, and we'll be back with CAMPO and RTC in August. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.